Okay. Good afternoon, AD Scott. Thank you for meeting with me today. How have you been during this pandemic?
I've been doing well. Like everybody else, just trying to take care of the family, make sure everybody's safe, and make sure the student athletes and coaches are prepared for as soon as we can get them back going. Man, Whew, can't wait. You know.
All right. So, conferences like the SEC, ACC, and Big Ten are having football seasons this fall. Is there anything MIG officials have taken from these conferences to try to bring football back?
I don't know so much what we've taken from them. We're watching them and learning from their mistakes and learning from their successes as well. But to be honest, the MEAC is in a different position, right? Like a lot of the FCS conferences across the country. And so I think for us, it's important that we make our own decisions and not look to some of the other, especially Power Five conferences who may have different resources and capabilities. And so I was actually very proud of the MEAC and the presidents and the ADs. It was a very tough decision we had to make, but I think it was the right decision based on who we are and what we think we can do successfully right now.
So, the plan is still to have football in the spring, correct?
Yes, as of now, we have a season built for MEAC football for the spring. Yep.
Now, let's say that because of COVID, that can't end up happening. What do you think the ramifications of that will be?
Well, I think there's a lot of levels. I mean, starting first with the student athlete, I think you have some mental health concerns. It'll be about a year and a half since the student athletes who play football would have been able to participate. So I think that's a significant concern. Um, I think you have to worry about the physical health, right? Because they haven't worked out in a really long period of time. So you have the physical health, the mental health of the student athletes. Then when you start looking at roster management, Tariq, I think it gets really interesting because we're not going to be able to keep all of the students who might want to come back. And so it's going to make the coaches, it's going to put them in a position where they have to make some tough roster decisions about who they want to bring back and about honoring the commitments of the recruits that we would have coming in for next fall. So I think there's a lot of levels to it, and it's not really easy to unpack. And so I'm hopeful that with the antigen tests we received recently here at Morgan, the rapid response tests, that will allow us to have a football season, and we won't have to deal with some of the issues that I just raised.
All right. So, a few weeks ago, I saw that college basketball is set to begin November 25th. Um, what do you think MIG basketball look like this season? Do you think there'll be like a bubble like the NBA? Is there a plan for quarantine players?
No, I don't think you'll see a bubble exactly like the NBA. I think you'll see modified versions of bubbles. For example, on our campus, we know that around the right after Thanksgiving, that the students who are on campus won't be here, right? So basically, campus will be shut down. That allows us to build the quasi bubble for the men's and women's basketball players who will be here competing. But I don't think we're trying to replicate exactly the NBA's bubble. And I think you have other concerns because of travel that the NBA didn't have, right? In their bubble, everybody played in one location. Even if we bubble here at Morgan, so to speak, I'm using bubble as a verb, I guess now. If we were to use a bubble here at Morgan, we still have to fly, or not in this case, not this year, but we would have to bus and travel and stay in hotels and other places. So I think it could get interesting in the sense that there may be some positives. There will be some positives. The contact tracing is a big concern because basketball teams are so small. So even if you have one or two people who get it, potential contact tracing could force us to postpone potential contests in basketball. So that's one of the concerns that basketball poses as opposed to football, right? Because football, you still may have enough student athletes to be able to go out and compete and play that game. In basketball, with a roster of 15 to 18 men or women, if two people get it and you're contact tracing, it could force you to not be able to compete.
Okay. Talking about the basketball team, there's been some pretty talented players in the past. You have Tywon Kinley, who's played with the Wizards G League affiliate. Philip Carr's played overseas. And now this year, Coach Broadus has brought in some new talent, Sharon Wright, Trevor Moore, and then Howard's also added top prospect McCord Maker.
Yep.
Norfolk State has added Nate Tabor. Would you say this is the most competitive the MEAC has been since you've been at Morgan?
Probably. I think the MEAC has been competitive every year. Once you get into conference play, you can throw a lot of that stuff out the window because everybody knows everybody, meaning the coaches and the staffs. They know what the systems that each program runs. But what I do think has happened is it's elevated MEAC basketball, right, as a whole. And I think that's extremely important, not only for us at Morgan, but for the entire league. The better the league is, the easier it is for all of us to attract talent. The only time we're competing against our peers in the MEAC is for 2-3 hours a night, right? So I want to see them do well, unless they're playing a team with Morgan on the chest. So I think it's helped. I think it's lifted the profile of the league, but I think that as we move forward, the league is going to stay competitive. And that's something I'm not really worried about. And the reason why is because where we're located, this Mid-Atlantic region, Baltimore and DC, there's so much talent in the basketball ability and in the young people in this area that I think Morgan, Howard, Norfolk, who's been good for a while, and they have a good coach down there. I think you're going to continue to see all of our teams move forward. And so it's nice that all of us have been able to get some of this talent. To your original question, it's just going to put the league and it's going to make it more competitive and more balanced as we move forward. And that's what we want because we want somebody to go, excuse me, to win one of those playing games or to get past the playing game and have a chance to win a first round game.
Recently, I saw that Tiny Adams, former guard for the Lady Bears, was also a video coordinator last season for the men's team. She was just named assistant coach for Loyalist men's basketball team, become just one of two women to be named the D1 men's basketball coach. Can you talk a little bit about what she means to the Morgan community?
Yeah, I think first of all, Tiny's the all-time leading scorer in Morgan basketball history, male or female, right? So we should get that. We should get that out there. Tiny could boogie. She could play. When I first got here, Tiny approached me about coming to work in the athletic department, and I asked her what her end game was. And Tiny was very clear back then, 2-3 years ago, that she wanted to be a coach on the male side, and her dream job is a head coach on the male side. And so we talked about the steps she would need in order to be able to do that. And I'm just really proud that she was able to execute that, a lot of that here at Morgan by getting on Coach Brodus' staff as a video coordinator. She finished her master's here at Morgan. A lot of folks don't know that. And now, she's across the way as an assistant coach. So we're extremely proud of Tiny. It means a great deal for her, but also for the Bear family, and even bigger for young women who aspire to work in male college or professional sports. It can be done. You have to be resilient. You have to work through a lot to get there. But I think Tiny is living proof that it can happen. And so I'm just really excited for Tiny. I'm excited for our family, the Morgan family, and I hope she does very well, except for when they play Morgan.
What are some big ways you think the pandemic will impact the recruitment of high school athletes?
And originally I thought not getting them here on campus was going to be a big deal, because I think Morgan's campus sells itself very well, right? I call it the oasis in the middle of Baltimore. So I thought that would be the impact, the major impact. But you've just touched on it, right? When you talk about who Coach Brodus has been able to recruit, you haven't talked about the women's side, but oh my God, Coach Davis has got some real talent over there. We got a very tall young lady in Nina Carpenter, a graduate transfer from Cal State Bakersfield, about 6'4", a little over 6'4". I mean, a dominant post presence. And then Coach Wheatley has continued to pick up a couple three-star folks on the football side. So I don't know that it's changed in the sense that, yes, you can't get folks here to campus, which is definitely a good selling point. And you want students to see the campus and feel the campus before they come. But for us, what it's really allowed us to do is focus in on our recruiting and go after who we were really looking at. I think a way that I would rephrase your question is a lot of individuals that I've seen and in talking with our coaches have shied away from the 2021. So that's the incoming class this fall, right? Because of what you asked earlier on, it was a very good question that you asked about the seniors and those coming back, right? What impact would that have on our programs? And so what we've chosen to do, especially in football, is to really go after the 2021s to try to get a new crop of freshmen in here to keep turning the culture of that program. So we've made out very, very well on the football side. And on the basketball side, we're pretty well stocked also. So I just think the biggest thing is not being able to come to campus and being able to see, feel, smell, touch campus in that way. And it is a hindrance to some potential student athletes, especially from further away, who may have never been to Baltimore and may have preconceived notions about what Morgan or Baltimore is really like.
How are athletes who are not staying on campus right now staying in touch with their coaches and other members of the athletic department?
Just like you and I, Zoom. Zoom. And then we have another platform called Teamworks. We were the first HBCU in the country to go fully live with Teamworks. It's an internal platform that allows us to message, send reminders, scheduling. Our student athlete schedules are migrated from Banner, right, from the degree audit system here on campus into Teamworks. And so if we're looking to schedule a call or something like that, we can pull up everybody's schedule and find the best time to do it. So Teamworks has been great. Zoom has been great. And then just our academic advisors as well have been trying to help the coaches by staying in touch with student athletes. So it's not always the coaches that are just having the contact. It's our support staff. And then as of Thursday last week, I personally have Zoomed with every single team that we have here and met with every student athlete just to talk to them about the social injustice, the racial inequality, about where we are at Morgan as far as when they would be coming back, when we would potentially start up sports. So they've heard from several layers of our department, not only coaches, but also support staff and our senior administration.